Whether you've experienced it yourself or known someone who has, anxiety is a very real and debilitating condition. It can impact your relationships, work performance, and overall quality of life. But the good news is there are ways to manage and even overcome it. You're watching the Power Hour. I'm your host, DJ Larry Jones, along with my co-host, Tamar. Tamar, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing very well. It's always good to have you back on the show.
Yes.
I want to jump right into it. So today we're talking about anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety.
Larry, I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but I actually struggled with a very severe anxiety and panic disorder.
Really?
And it really was a gradual build up and ended up kind of knocking me off my feet almost literally. And so over the years, I've been able to really experiment and figure out what works, what doesn't work, because I've been able to try everything on myself.
Right. I want to get into that because I've experienced something. It didn't last long, and I haven't felt it since, but I want to share a story. I was on an airplane coming back from Las Vegas, and this particular flight, I sat way in the back. I think it was like seat 28, or it was way in the back, and it was a window seat. And I was kind of cooped up in, you know how it is, how tight the seats are on the airplane. And suddenly, I had this really, really urge of needing to get the heck out of there. It overtook me so bad that I was that close to jumping up and becoming one of those people that you see, with the cell phones. Oh, he's going crazy. I felt like I was going to just scream out, let me off, let me out. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it happened or where it came from, but I kindly asked the guy next to me, I said, would you mind if we switched seats? And I took the aisle seat. I just felt so closed up and trapped in that little corner that it almost drove me insane for that moment. But I caught myself. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes. I asked the young guy next to me, I said, well, can we exchange seats? He said, yeah, we switched seats. And by me just sitting in the aisle seat gave me room, and I calmed down. Now, what do you think that came from? And could it possibly come back?
Oh my gosh. So classic panic attack. I've been there, actually. I've been in the exact same situation. I was on a really small seaplane. Yeah. And it was quite turbulent, and this thing was small, and I had that exact same instinct of just wanting to jump out.
Right.
It's a panic attack. So when we feel confined, right, and when we feel like there is some sort of threat. So for a lot of people on airplanes, it's very common because you're up in the air and you have no control.
Right.
And feeling a lack of control can trigger a really severe panic attack. And so I'm so glad that you were able to breathe through it. You were able to make yourself more comfortable by actually stretching out, lower your heart rate. The breathing, the closing the eyes was able to lower your heart rate. Yeah. Could it come back? Perhaps. However, now you already instinctively have a few tools under your belt for how to manage it if something does. And the thing with anxiety and panic attacks is when you know how to manage them, and we'll get into this a little bit more with different tips and tricks that people can use. But now that you've been there and you've managed it and you've gotten over, the next time that it happens, there's a good chance it'll be a lot less severe and you'll be able to catch it more quickly.
Yeah, it was pretty frightening. I didn't know what was happening. And it brought me back to, and when it was over, I found it to be kind of funny. I said, what if I would have jumped up and started rambling? Let me off, and found myself on YouTube going viral for that. That would have been a mess.
I mean, I keep hearing that no publicity is bad publicity, so you never know.
Right.
What I would say is in a situation, so panic attacks are very scary, by the way. Yeah. So people experiencing panic attacks don't necessarily always know that that's what they are experiencing. Sometimes they think that they're experiencing a heart attack,
Yeah.
or a migraine so bad that perhaps they have something wrong, maybe a brain tumor, because our imaginations will go to really crazy
Oh,
places when we're
yeah.
stressed. And it's that moment of your body going into fight or flight when things do feel really out of control. And it can be a very scary feeling. And I'm going to give you one suggestion,
Okay.
which is going to sound really counterintuitive, but this is the best possible way to nip a panic attack in the bud. And that's actually to invite it to get even stronger.
Really?
The funny thing is when we surrender to those really scary symptoms and we go, like in your case, if you would have said on the airplane, okay, body, you know what? You want to freak out? Like, give me everything. Give me a heart attack. Go ahead. Make it happen, right? Because you're so scared. Your body's so tense. It doesn't know what to do. Short of jumping up and starting to frighten everybody else on the aircraft, when we surrender to those really scary symptoms and we actually invite them to get stronger, what often happens is they end up diffusing. For that person that's having those really severe heart palpitations because they're in stress mode, but they feel like, oh no, what if I have a heart attack? The problem is then the fear of having a heart attack makes the symptoms get even stronger, right? Because it's that fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know, how is my body possible? Am I going to shut down? Am I going to have to go in an ambulance? And it's in the process of going, okay, body, I surrender to you, do your thing. If you want to have a heart attack, give me the heart attack. And most often the exact opposite happens. And you realize, okay, a few minutes has gone by. I'm still okay. I'm still here. And that thing that I really feared isn't happening.
Right. It's almost like being stuck in the elevator. You start panicking, but if you just relax and calm down and just deal with the fact that you're in the elevator, someone will get you out soon enough. Eventually you'll get out and everything will be okay. Now, how would you define anxiety?
Yeah. Anxiety gets a bad rap because a lot of people think I have anxiety, so I need to treat the anxiety. However, anxiety in itself is not actually a feeling. Anxiety is your symptom that there's some other emotion going on that you're not addressing. It could be sadness, it could be anger, it could be resentment. There's something going on under the surface that's stuck. And until you start to really go a little bit deeper and you go, okay, I'm having anxiety. Why am I having anxiety? Oh, I'm having anxiety because I'm really stressed out because of my job, right? And I'm really resentful that I have to go there every single day. Okay, let me deal with that and let me figure that out. And then once you start to manage the underlying feelings that are causing the anxiety, really great starting point for dealing with it.
All right, now, what are some symptoms of anxiety? Is it gradually? How does it come about?
It's interesting that you ask that. I will tell you my personal experience with anxiety because it's really interesting because it was years in the making, potentially even longer. And I never, ever, ever identified with an anxiety sufferer. When I would hear people that say I have anxiety, I never thought that's me. I thought I'm a high-strung person. I'm just a worrier. So yeah, I would try to go to bed at night and my brain would be spinning and spinning because I would be creating scenarios that could happen and might happen and I didn't want to have happen. And by the way, 99% of things that you fear that are going to happen don't happen.
Don't happen.
Yeah, they don't happen. So for me, it was very, very gradual. And what ended up happening is I had a series of really traumatic events in a fairly short amount of time. And even then I said, okay, let me get therapy. And I'm just, I'm a new mom now. I have a family. I don't really have time to deal with this stuff. I'm going to move on. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to choose to, to move forward. And I'm going to put it behind me. In the situation where you can do that, that's great. For a lot of people, that's really hard to do. So what ends up happening is your anxiety will start to come out in different ways. And it's different for everybody. For me, it started out as migraine headaches. And I thought, okay, well, I have migraines. Then I started getting a really bad pain in my neck. My neck got really tense. And I thought, well, what parent of young children doesn't have a pain in the neck? That's probably normal. And then I started getting lightheaded. And then I started thinking, oh gosh, I wonder if something's wrong. And it literally, Larry, it had to knock me down. And I actually had to go to the hospital. I was hospitalized for physical symptoms, and I still didn't realize that it was just anxiety. So I was having MRIs and CAT scans, and I was thinking one of two things. Number one, doctors just haven't been able to find what's wrong.
Right.
Or avenue number two is it's so rare that they don't even know what it is if they were to find it.
Yeah.
No, it was just anxiety. So that's why I say anxiety can be a really scary thing, because it can actually manifest itself very physically.
Yeah.
People get a whole range of emotions. People get shaky hands. People get heart palpitations, or their heart really races, and then they fear that maybe they have high blood pressure, or they're going to get a heart attack and things like that. So my advice is, when something feels a little bit off, right, and you don't feel peaceful and happy, our natural state is calm and happy. And if you are feeling something outside of that, or if you have a really nagging physical symptom, maybe start to think about it and look into it a little bit.
Yeah. Now, does meditation help? Can it help?
Yes. Actually, it's interesting, because what got me into the mindset world wasn't me wanting to be this amazing version of myself and law of attraction and manifestation. No, I had hit a rock bottom with my health. And as soon as I realized that it was my anxiety that was causing my physical symptoms, I said to myself, I can go down two roads. Road A is I just kind of learned to cope and deal with it. A road B, or second road, is I can actually start to understand how the brain works and how my body works. And I can start to understand anxiety so that I can heal my mind and heal my body. So manifestation, and you'll find a lot of the things that we talk about on our calls, the I am affirmations and the manifestations, those are really key to overcoming anxiety. Because I was going to say the funny thing is, but it's actually a really amazing thing, is that I use those same I am affirmations in my headphones every single night. I am healthy. I am calm. I am at peace. I am safe. I listened to those for months thinking, okay, I don't have any other tools right now, so let me do this. And in fact, very quickly, it started to become my new identity.
Right. Now, what causes anxiety? Do we know what causes it?
I think it varies for people. So you can have things that cause anxiety that are really major events that are traumatic, of course. And it doesn't need to be the car accident. It can be, we moved to a new home as a child and I felt really out of place. So trauma can be big emotional events, life events, right? That we can pinpoint and we can go, oh yeah, that was really hard when that happens. But the interesting thing is that anxiety can also come in really, really tiny doses. There can be a comment that a parent made in front of you as a child that really stuck with you. Maybe it hurt you in the moment and you didn't even know it because you were a little kid. But over time, that little thought started to shape your identity. And so that can also cause anxiety. Anxiety can be caused by different emotional triggers that cause you to feel something outside of yourself and trigger those other deeper emotions like sadness, anger, hurt, resentment, etc.
Okay, right. Now, for someone who may be dealing with anxiety, what are some of the things they can do to possibly get rid of it? Let's just say, well, let me ask this. Does alcohol and caffeine, can that play a part of it?
For some people, 1000%. So caffeine has a stimulant effect. Alcohol has more of that downer effect. And for a lot of people, caffeine can trigger the heart racing, hands shaking, and that really feels like anxiety.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive to caffeine and you notice that you have a cup of coffee and you get jittery, it's probably a sign that you should lay off. If it also causes you to experience heightened anxiety. And the same way with the alcohol, if it's making you feel sad, then you probably want to pay attention to that. We're probably going to do a part 2 of this episode, right?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
You want to keep chatting?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I mean, is it generational?
I think so. I think that for a lot of people, when you have, and I don't know that anxiety is generational or genetic, you can have personality types that are maybe more uptight. My dad is the exact same personality type as me. We're uptight, we worry, we like to hold on to things, we like to control everything. So feeling out of control is really triggering for us. But I also think that there's an element of something very real called generational trauma, which is where something happens somewhere along the family line, and that family has carried that pain through the generations. So there's definitely can be a generational element to it. And if that's the case, then there are actually a lot of therapists that are really well versed with generational trauma and how to get through those layers and decades and sometimes centuries of pain.
Yeah, yeah. Now, in some cases, anxiety can be so bad that you may need therapy. You may need some professional help, right?
I do,
What
yeah.
what's the difference between normal stress and anxiety?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Normal stress is something that we all have that we can overcome, right? I go to work, I have a really bad day, it puts me in a bad mood for a couple hours. I come home, I shake it off, and the next day I don't really think about it anymore. That's just your day-to-day stress. And a little bit of stress is good because we've seen that actually a little bit of stress can cause us to increase our performance. If we're really stressed out because we have a presentation due the next day, we're probably going to really put a lot of effort into studying and doing a great job. So a little bit of stress can actually be a positive thing because it can cause us to be more motivated to do whatever it is that we want to do better. Anxiety, the one that I would pay attention to, is when there's a feeling of stuckness and when there's something there that's causing you on a regular basis to not feel quite right. Because the thing with anxiety that's really debilitating, especially over time, is that anxiety puts our body into a really tense state.
Yeah.
Right? We have that fight or flight mechanism. And in anxiety sufferers, that fight or flight mechanism never quite gets turned off. So think about your body being in a state of complete tension all the time. Your immune system gets lowered. You're more susceptible to all kinds of illnesses and disease. Not to mention your mental health is going to completely deteriorate.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get in closing. Let's get into some quick tips of what people can do
Yes.
who are maybe going through. What are some tips?
Yes, 100%. First tip, please don't go through this alone. Reach out to somebody and let them know, hey, you know what? Something's really bothering me. Even if you don't know what it is, and you don't have to know, but you do not need to go through this alone. Go reach out to a family member, a friend, reach out to me. I coach a lot of clients through anxiety, and I'm a living testament that you don't just need to get over anxiety. You can completely rid yourself of it. You can do a 180 and you can be a happier person. So first of all, reach out to somebody that can help you get through it. Second, start to do I am affirmations. And even if it feels completely silly to you, put those headphones in, put on, there's a ton of YouTube I am affirmations and meditations for health and for anxiety. Start to reprogram your brain that you are safe, because very often your anxiety is triggered by a feeling of unsafe or being out of control. So start to let your body know that you are okay. Start to meditate, do a purge, write down those things that you're really worried about, because most of the time you're going to realize this is all stuff that you're just making up in your head, right? You're worried about things that you're building up and your imagination is going crazy. Get it out of your body, write it down, rip it up and burn it. And now make room for the safety aspect where you know that you're calm and you're okay. The bad things that are going to happen, and it's not going to be the things that you are worried about.
Right. What about breathing techniques?
Yes. So the 4 in. Okay, so one of the most famous breathing techniques to actually slow the heart down, and this is used in the military. This is used in combat situations for soldiers who are in really high stress situation and they need to be able to calm their bodies down. And that's inhaling for 4, holding for 4, and then exhaling for 7 or 8. That really slow breathing, because what you want to do again is you want to get your body into a safe, comfortable state. So you want it to calm down. You want to slow your heart rate. You want to soothe the body. You want to be able to be a little bit more relaxed. So yes, the breathing is so important. And I would sometimes go to bed doing those breathing exercises at night because I felt just so uncomfortable.
Right. You know, the funny thing about that is I check my blood pressure every day. I take my vitamins and check my pressure. If my pressure is slightly high, I'll do those exact breathing techniques for a few minutes. And then when I check it again, it's much lower. So it does work.
Yes. Supplement wise, magnesium is a really wonderful supplement to take before bed because it does have a relaxing effect on the muscles and joints. So it can be a really powerful tool. Of course, melatonin. I mean, I don't know if I recommend melatonin because I like natural melatonin triggers, like having a super, super dark, cool bedroom that can trigger melatonin just as well as taking the supplement, a nice cup of tea before bed, chamomile, things like that. Do whatever you can to get yourself into a relaxed state. And then also, when you have those moments where some thought is coming up, and this is really prevalent for people who have experienced some sort of trauma that they're trying to suppress. So my other recommendation is when that trigger comes up or you have that thought or that flash in your mind, don't try to suppress it because it will continue to come back up. When it comes up, acknowledge it and sit with it, right? Let yourself go there for a moment. And sometimes you can just affirm to yourself and say, you know what, that was really hard. Because sometimes those stuck feelings, they just want to have a voice. That part of you that's been hurt or that's had some sort of pain just needs to be heard and acknowledged. And very often that's why it keeps on coming up and you keep on having those flashes or those symptoms. So when it comes up, again, we're all about surrendering, right? Surrender to it. Let it come up, sit with it for a moment. Give it a voice. It can be really painful in the moment, but the thing is that repetition where it comes up and you go, yes, I hear you. That was hard. And then the next time it comes up, maybe it's a little bit quieter. Maybe it comes up less often. And then slowly you start to put your traumas to rest a little bit. And of course, this is really oversimplifying it. Of course, if you need to, please get professional help for those things. But those little moments are really good opportunities for you to actually sit with yourself and with those feelings and really begin to acknowledge and identify them.
It's always a pleasure having you on the show. You're the co-host. You're watching the Power Hour right here with myself, DJ Larry Jones, along with Tamar.
The Power Hour is brought to you by Soul TV.